is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Make Every Second Count Live with me, your host, and international award-winning Make Every Second Count speaker, Jeff Marconette Jr. Now, guys, guess what? I am so pumped up because I am going to be in Kansas City this coming weekend, but that's for a different time and story. I am pumped up because tonight's guest is someone amazing. She is going to tell us all about why humaning is difficult at times, but it can be done with a smirk. And I think she means smile, but smirk works too. So I'm pumped up about it, and I ask you guys if you would please share this episode out, invite all kinds of people to watch it, and don't forget to give us all kinds of likes, comments, and make sure you subscribe because you don't want to miss any future episodes. But with no further ado, I would like to bring Ash to the stage. Hey, how are you?
Hi, I'm excellent. How are you?
Oh, I am fantastic. I'm so happy that you chose to join me on this show tonight. I'm honored by that.
I'm honored. I'm so grateful for the opportunity, Jeff. Really, I think you're an incredible human, so I'm stoked.
Thank you very much. It touches my heart to hear that. So
That's what I'm here for.
if you would like to go through a short introduction, tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and what you do, and we will get into your adversity in a minute, but it's always best for people to know who they're talking to.
Sure. Yeah, happy to do that. Hi, everyone. I'm Ash Rossi. I live in a suburb not far outside of Chicago, and I am a freedom proponent and human enthusiast and a doer of all the things. I mean, speaking to people and setting them free with words is my absolute number one and my favorite. But I'm also an author, and I do many other things too.
Well, that is awesome. Sorry, I'm inviting a few people here on my phone while you go through your introduction, but I know personally that life has a way of putting things in the way. Things that try to hold us back from climbing that ladder of success. And it actually likes to pull us down at times. It doesn't want us to climb. And I know because I was in a car accident at 17. I spent 2.5 months in a coma and 3.5 in the hospital. I was told I would never walk again. But guess what? Here I am now.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting started. So I have to ask, has there been anything that has tried to hold you back in your life?
Yes. And I think what is unique about me, Jeff, is just the sheer volume of trauma and very difficult events that I've experienced in my soon to be 39 years of humaning. At the start, I was a super neglected and abused child who then went on to become a teen parent, who then experienced domestic violence in several relationships. I essentially lived as a squatter in a townhouse with my oldest for the better part of 2 years. And then I got married, and then I got divorced, and then I created this company that by all means you would think would have been massive, but it didn't succeed. And then I thought I met who was supposed to be the love of my life, but realized that he, in fact, was not. Went on to sell the house that I had always planned to dramatically have my ashes spread in. And, it felt like the emotional equivalent of cutting off my own arm to do that.
Ooh.
And then and then I was backed into a bankruptcy by legal fees last year and had to become my own attorney because I couldn't keep affording to pay all of this money for very little progress. So yeah, and I mean the crazy thing is that's seriously only some of the experiences. There have just been so many.
Wow. That is nuts. And I'm sorry to hear that you have gone through all that, but there's one thing that I know about you. And you are strong. You are a survivor. See, people don't understand that the things they go through make them a survivor. It gives them the strength so they can be able to go through future things, because I promise there's future things coming. And if you haven't had anything happen yet, just wait. It's coming. I promise you that. But I can tell you that you are a survivor. You are a winner because you made it through all that. And I am proud of you for that.
I appreciate that very, very much. I do.
Yes,
I mean,
you are very, very welcome.
thank you.
So I'm curious now about the teen pregnancy. What was that like?
um, it's unique. So I was not a troublemaking teenager, and the problem is people just assume, right? And so I I had never tried drugs. I didn't drink. I didn't do anything crazy. I lived with an abusive alcoholic. My mother's ex-husband was insane to live with, and so it was not some like typical behavior for me where it was like, oh, of course this happened. It was a huge surprise and a shock. So walking around the world that way is tough. You see a very vicious side of humans because they're just so incredibly judgmental and love to tell you how much you're not going to be able to accomplish in your life. So it was pretty miserable.
Sorry, I was on mute there
Oh,
for a
that's
minute.
okay.
I was trying to make it where everybody could comment on Facebook, but they have to make that difficult to do, and I don't know. I don't understand why they want to make everything difficult these
Everything.
days. But so you said that you grew up with an abusive alcoholic father or stepfather. Now, what was that like? And did that turn you off from doing the drugs and alcohol? And
So he didn't come into the picture until I was, I think, 10. And no, I never wanted to do any of that stuff anyways. I have always had a pretty chill disposition despite my surroundings. And so it's not like I think I would have ended up being troubled regardless. But what I do know is that, yeah, I mean, once I got to 21, I really wanted very little to do with alcohol, and still to this day, I'll have a margarita here and there, but I'm not a big drinker, and I haven't used any drugs. I tried marijuana twice. Once the week before I turned 30. So again, never when I was a kid. And then once when it became legal here in Illinois. And it's not really in my bag, but I'm not against it for people who it helps.
yes, that is very interesting, and it's not something I do. It's something I've tried, and I probably shouldn't admit that on here, but I am, and I'm being real with you guys. So, but I'm interested about one thing that you said also. Well, I'm also interested in another thing that you said, and that was you started a company that you thought would be huge, and it failed.
Yes. So I literally created the cleanest line of baby food in existence, and that's not like a false claim or a humble brag. It boggles my mind that it didn't end up being a huge thing, and who knows, maybe down the road it will. But it was called Tiny Human Food, and it was cold pressed, and it had all of the natural goodness still locked into it. So that was an exceptional experience.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, now I know I said before that I didn't think this would be good for the show, but I'm curious now about your police academy experiences.
Ah, um,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
no, that's okay. So I had always wanted to be a police officer, and I had my degree in criminal justice. You know, the same person who was a teen mom and was never going to amount to anything went on
Congratulations.
to thank you to break all of the statistics that exist for teen parents, including getting a college degree. So I worked really hard. It took me 4 years to get a 2-year degree, but I loved it so much that there was nothing that was going to stop me from it. And then the week that I was finally graduating, my now ex-husband and I found out that we were expecting my youngest child. And
That time.
it was sincerely devastating. And I've had open conversations with I think it's really important to be honest with your kids. And so I've had super honest conversations with how that changed the course of my life quite a bit. So while I was waiting for my youngest to get to an age where I was comfortable going back to law enforcement, that's when I had created Tiny Human Food. But 9 years in, it was like the older I was getting, the more aware I was that I wanted to get into a police department. And in Illinois, there are very few that you can get into after 35. So I finally put the company to the side a few years ago and applied at a couple of police departments. I passed Chicago's test. I knew I wasn't going to work in Chicago because of my little dude. But it was a life goal. And so I needed to know if I could do it. And then I passed another test and I was hired, and that department was wonderful. And my FTO and my sergeant were incredible, and I adored them. And the first 2 weeks on the department were amazing. I had to have surgery that I wasn't expecting. So nobody knew I was starting with 5 new holes in my abdomen, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to let anything get in my way. And couldn't wait to get to the academy so they could teach me all the things so I could be the best version of myself possible for my fellow officers. Yeah. So, and I got to the academy and they broke my love for that job in 7 days. 7 between 12 and 16-hour days. But I think for me, this was just January of 22, actually. Holy cow. It was just January of 22. It became very clear to me that a thing was being done because it had always been done. There was no evolving. There was no teaching how to de-escalate a situation. We were taught things to put us in this immediate, like, adversarial position with the communities that we were all going out to serve. And it wasn't resonating with who I am as a human being. And it made it very clear to me why there are a lot of problems between police and their communities. And so I decided that it wasn't a fit and made the agonizing decision to leave.
Wow. That has to be tough to leave something you've always dreamed of doing?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one thing that still hurts, you know, because it's hard for me to wrap my mind around the fact that it could be so much better. But I think we're decades away from that. So
Yeah. Wow. That's sad to hear that that your dream didn't turn out the way you wanted it to.
no, yeah, I mean it is, but I think, you know, listen, I've always known, when I say always, I mean it, that I'm here to do something very big, but that's scary. I'm sure that you can relate to that. You know, you start hearing, I jokingly say it's like the Mufasa voice, right? Where you hear like, it is time, and you're like, oh no, it's
It
not.
is time.
Right. You're like, it can't be time. I'm not ready. And so I think I've just been being nudged, pushed, and shoved into the direction of say words to the human, share the story, help them realize they're not alone. And I couldn't have done that way. So I'm honestly happy with where I am now. I just wish that it didn't have to be what it was then.
That makes me happy that you are happy now.
Thank you.
So I'm curious. The world has a lot of issues at the moment, and you say that humaning is difficult. So, do you have any suggestions for other people that are having difficulties, as you call it, humaning? And can you explain what that means to you?
Sure. I would be happy to, because as you guys can probably tell after all of that, I have had lots of experience, and as someone who loves to do the deep dive and figure all of the things out and go in, and take things apart within myself so that I can figure them out and put them back together. Um, I've taken my work in that area very seriously. So I think that the if I have to pick one, and it's hard, but if I have to pick one, it's to really learn and embrace and love the concept of becoming self-centered, but not in the way that people take that. There's a huge difference, right? So if we take the words for what they are, self-centered, and we remove the negative connotations and we remove the definition, because what I'm not saying is to become inconsiderate or unkind to people, but we need to focus on what's going on internally so that we don't perpetuate the negativity outside of ourselves, right? So when a person makes the decision to focus inward rather than outward, and then has the strength and courage that they need to carry out whatever needs to be done once they get in there, because it can get dark. I think that they set themselves free. There are so many people, I think the vast majority of people are looking outside of themselves for peace, for love, for acceptance, for validation, for all of these things. And that's simply never going to work. Everybody has gotten into this, and I don't want to say everyone, that's probably not fair, but again, the vast majority, especially in America, man, like we've just learned how to compete for the title of like most disenfranchised, because we look out into the world and we see what other people have and what we don't have and blah, blah, blah. But when you're focused inward and self-centered, you realize that there's literally no limit to what you're capable of, the love that you're able to feel. It's difficult work, but if you don't do it, I feel like you end up living a life similar to mine, right? And listen, I was one of the most well-intentioned people. I put everyone ahead of myself. I loved the crap out of everyone I knew. I pride myself very much on always having been a very kind person. So no matter what I was going through, I was very kind to everyone else, but I was hurting myself. I was putting myself in bad positions, and that doesn't ultimately help anyone. And so when you go inward, you do that work, you're able to then go back out into the world and exude this, just like this sheer knowing of what we can actually exist as. Because, we come into this world, and it doesn't matter, no matter what anybody believes, right? Like scientifically, we're made up of energy. So there's something going on in there, in the invisible. So I just refer to it as like my inner being. So I feel like we all come in with inner beings, and our inner beings are the key to all of the peace that we can need. But then the humaning part gets in the way. And I wish I knew why. I did not determine or create the ways of the world. I'd love to talk to the person who did. But what I do know is that internal work has to be done, and has to be done first.
Yeah, that is very true. So I have a saying that true happiness comes from in here.
Mm-hmm.
That people outside can try and ruin your day, can try and throw wrenches and all kinds of things into your path. But unless you allow them to ruin your day, then they can't ruin your day. You have to give somebody else permission to ruin your day. So I see what you're saying. It's very important that people become self-centered, but not in the way of self-centered. That's strange to say, but they need to focus on themselves, because if we focus on ourselves and do that inner work, then we're going to find happiness. And once you find happiness, it's like so much better. Everything is so much better in the world. And I like that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I do. Well, and you know how it is with all the gimmicky marketing stuff, right? Which I am not a fan of. It drives me nuts. But, the reason I think I love self-centered is because it gets your attention, because you go, wait, what did she just say?
Yeah.
And then it sticks because it's a memorable thing, and that shift is really important. So I know it's weird to say, and I've kind of fallen in love with it.
Yeah. I think I'm actually going to steal that.
By all means, I'm happy to.
I'll give you credit for it 3 times, and then it's mine.
Fair enough.
No, I'm not gonna do that. I'll give you credit for it, but I find that very fascinating, that something like self-centered can have 2 meanings, and that is just nifty to me.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I heard you earlier talk a little bit about a book. Can you tell us a little bit about this book and what it's about, and how somebody can get it if they want to?
Yes, I'd be happy to. It's not ready to be gotten. We're gonna
All right,
go with that
well,
yet.
that's all right.
But I actually just picked it up again because the reason I put it to the side was I really need illustrations. It's a children's book. I think, I've got the mouth of an absolute sailor. So it's very difficult for me to think about standing in front of a group of children and speaking to them for any length of time. Plus, they don't listen for that long anyways. But I do think that kids are where we need to pour a ton of all of the mindset shift work, right? We've got to break these patterns, these long-standing patterns. So the book is actually called Me Big, and it's all about how you are allowed to do whatever brings you joy. It's when you're growing up, and so it's looking forward, saying, okay, well, I can do this as me big. And for me, I personally enjoy doing a lot of different things, but that's not what we're taught. We're taught that you're supposed to go to college for one thing, and then you do that one thing for decades, and then you retire from that one thing. There's no way. I mean, I'm simply not built for that. I want to learn as much as I can. I want to extract as many lessons as I can in this life. And so I love to try a wide variety of things, and I really want to normalize that. As long as you're able to pay your bills and you're not harming anybody, then I don't think anybody should be able to impede. Not to mention, I was also a tomboy. I wanted to be a police officer when I was a kid, but I also love sparkly stuff. Like, I just want to normalize humans being able to live as their best version of themselves when they get big.
You want to normalize humaning.
I do. Humaning and humaning in a way that feels genuine and authentic and good to each person, not the people outside of them.
Yes, that is very respectable. You want to normalize self-centered humaning.
I do.
Yeah.
For sure.
That is totally understandable. So, when are you shooting on having this book done? Do you have an idea?
I would like to have it done in the next couple of months. Honestly, right before the holidays would be awesome. I need to figure out that illustration portion between work and the speaking events that I'm doing, and then this court battle that continues. I don't have much extra time, so I still need to finish my website. I have my YouTube, and I honestly am really loving TikTok. I know I need to shift to YouTube, but you can find me at A Great Something. So if anybody watching wants to follow, especially for when that book comes out, that would be great. But yeah, I need to figure out the illustration piece of my book. Otherwise, the book itself is ready. It's already copyrighted and everything. So
wow.
Yeah.
A Great Something.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to look you up on TikTok because I have TikTok too. I don't use it a lot, but I need to.
Jeff, it's where our people are. I'm telling you. All the different social media platforms have their thing, right? Like, one is for drama, the other one's for we're perfect. They're all what they are, right? One's political. TikTok, though, you'll never hear me say a bad word about it. I'm sure if you want to go look for dark things, you can find dark things, but I don't find dark things. I find animals doing really cute stuff and DIY people and really funny humans and excellent, world-changing singers. There are just so many amazing things, and it's just real. So yeah, I love it there.
I happen to agree with that statement. TikTok is kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, so there are evil people in the world, and you see on TikTok, I have found that it's not that way. That people on TikTok are actually kind, and they're actually supportive, and it's really neat.
Yep. I agree. I feel like that's where people come together, which is why I don't understand all the political attacking it. But I think people uniting is what everything needs. The government might not agree, but humans as an existence need to be together.
Yeah, they need to human together and become humaning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, guys, I want to thank Ash for this show tonight because it has been very eye-opening, enlightening in many ways. But there's one other thing that I want to say while we're here. And that is tomorrow is September 11th. Mm-hmm. It's a very bad day. Or very good day, depending on how you want to look at things. because the country kind of came together on after September 11th for a while. But a lot of people lost their lives. And it was a devastating experience. I remember I was sitting in my I was a junior in pre-engineering class, and my teacher had a phone call, and he answered it in the room, and he turned on the TV, and we actually watched the second plane hit the second tower, and we were all just at a loss for words. And I think that experience has taught me a lot, but I don't like doing this. It doesn't make me comfortable to talk about this, but I want to say thank you to everybody. First responders, veterans. I want to thank everybody that helps keep us free and helps us in life. So just thank you guys. And I hope on September 11th, you guys think about the people you need to thank in your life, the people that you need to tell you love in your life, because that is so important. But I need everybody out there, including you, Ash, to do me a favor this week, next week, and for the rest of your life. I need you to make every second count. Why? Because you never know when those seconds will run out on your one life. So, guys, I'll see you back here next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And until then, remember to have a great week. Thanks again, Ash.
Thank you, Jeff. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
All right, be well.